I'm Catherine Ellis, and I'm your child's advanced chemistry teacher. And I want to talk to you about the course and give you some information. You should know that my first name is spelled Katharine, so when you're trying to find my email, catherine.ellis@bvsd.org, that's where you're going to find it. It's going to be a strange spelling for the name. I am very well educated. I teach a bunch of classes here, all in the physical sciences, and if you want to know more about that, you can slow this down. I'm trying to speed up so I can get to the important stuff. Okay, I will update Infinite Campus every Monday. You can know that you can look in Monday afternoon and see updated grades for your child, including what's missing. I think students are responsible for their own work. I think this is an important value. The chemistry class at our school is specifically tailored for students who are either passionate about chemistry and of course would do their own work, or kids who are planning to go to college, in which case they really do need to be independently working at this point in their academic career. So if there is an issue in which your child needs more support for that, of course I'm going to work with you and whatever special education teachers or whoever else may be involved in their case, but I want you to know that this is an important piece for tipping the balance from adult responsibility to the child being responsibility for their work, that chemistry really does level that up. Generally, you won't hear from me unless there's an issue, especially because we're moving so quickly. But if anything comes up for you, you can expect a response from me in 24 hours. I myself have a student taking chemistry this year, not at Monarch, but I am walking the walk right now. So I just want you to know I'm in it with you. I love parents, and I understand. Course is super fast-paced. There's a lot of algebra. Students learn to push their critical thinking and communication skills in this class to the next level. My most recent post before I came here was teaching at Front Range Community College, and I know with the minimum for a community college, kids need to come in able to do ways they need to be ready to think and hold themselves accountable and responsible for work. So that's where I'm trying to get them. That's the target, is to get them to at least community college ready for just having skills in place before they even start applying to colleges. Okay, so because we are in a COVID world, all the materials are in the Schoology app. If I have time in this video, I'll try to get to that app so you can see what that looks like. For every lesson, before the lesson starts, by 8:30 that morning, the students will do something called an Ed Puzzle. This is a new app. Ed Puzzles are videos that we made that force the student to stop along the way while they're watching the video to interact and answer questions. So that's the prep and practice, and what I'm looking for there is completion and effort, that the students are trying to answer the questions about the material as they're learning it. So there'll be an example of a problem, and then the students will have to solve a similar problem to the one that was just given using different numbers, and then submit their answer choice for that. So that's called the Ed Puzzle. It's a video that students interact with. That's the preparation part of the class. Then there's the practice. Students all have worksheets available to them. They don't have to complete every question on every worksheet, but they do need to do some questions till they feel that they are confident that they know the material. Then they can check their answers against an answer key and compare. We're trying to develop metacognitive skills where students can know what they know and know what they don't know, and if they don't know it, maybe look at a correct answer and have an aha moment, or interact with me through our virtual class when we meet in real time or access time, or through email answering questions that way, or in the chat in the virtual space. There's a lot of ways to students to get their questions answered. So that's kind of the process for the worksheets. So then after the kids finish a worksheet, they go and do something called an exit ticket. That's, again, have they mastered that particular idea that day, putting it all together in one place. It's a little bit like a quiz, but it's pretty low stakes. So after the Ed Puzzles are due on a given day, they may have a lab to do. We give them class time for all of this material. They shouldn't have extra homework unless they get extra time. There's no way in this fast pace of doubling up on content every day that we can, in the 80 minutes we have, give students extra time. That's why things like the Ed Puzzles are not due on a particular day. They're due the next day. So if students do need extended time, they are allowed to work into the evening on things, but we're not requiring students to do that unless that's part of their IEP. There's no way in the 80 minutes we have to do the content with the rigor that this chemistry content is to be delivered, that also in that 80-minute period allows kids who need extra time. If you want to have a further conversation about that, please contact me. I'm happy to work with you on whatever you need in terms of working with your child's needs. Okay, So for an example, there's an example here. You can read through it. You can pause the video at any time to read through the details if you're interested. Grading's a bit different this year than in previous years. Let's see, how do I click this? Let's see if I go enter here. Yeah. So I use the standard Monarch scale. Prep and practice is 20%. Usually it's 10%. But in this model, we're making sure kids are using good school readiness skills and that they're doing the prep and practice. Formative are labs and quizzes. That's 60%. But labs, your students shouldn't have any reason to not get a perfect score on a lab if they're getting it done in time to check answer keys that I'm posting for them. So a lab today, or maybe next week, is due at, say, 4 o'clock on a given day. At the beginning of access time, 3 o'clock, I'll post an answer key before the due time of 4 o'clock. Students can check their answers really fast. They won't have time to do the whole lab then, but they can check their work, make corrections, and then submit their final version by 4 o'clock during that access time. So there's no reason the child is turning in anything but a perfect lab in this scenario. And then summative will have exams. We're still figuring out how to do that in a fair way that is truly indicative of a child's learning, but that will be only 20%. Usually that's 55% of a chemistry grade. So there's a little break for kids there. Lab fees, I have no idea what's going on with that. We'll just wait and see, and we'll send out a message to parents. The philosophy here is kids are academically and intellectually rigorous. So I want them to feel emotionally safe and willing to learn to take risks and show some courage, as well as showing up with resiliency. I've had students in the past who the first couple, 3 or 4 weeks, were feeling really anxious and confused, but then through working with me, and there's a lot of avenues for kids to work with me, even though it's not face-to-face in real life, there's a lot of support for kids if they look for it. If they're not looking for it, we can't force that on them. But I really would like to see kids building their confidence, because we know that self-esteem is built from meeting challenges and overcoming them. If you never try anything hard, how can you feel good about yourself? If everything is handed to you, how do you build self-esteem? So a piece of building self-esteem is finding challenges, learning how to overcome them, and doing it. So that's kind of what my philosophy is around really keeping the course rigorous. All right, so I want to get your kids ready for college, which means there's going to be something called eustress. If kids are bored, they're not stressed enough. There's this area where kids are not stimulated enough and they get bored, they're fatigued, they're frustrated, they're dissatisfied. That's not where we want kids. We want kids right in that sweet spot where their brain is engaged enough and they are challenged enough that they're motivated to solve a problem, but not to the point where they're overly stressed. Hopefully in this remote learning where they're only taking 3 or 4 classes, we find the space for kids to really focus on one thing at a time, which in this day and age is really a rare opportunity, and that's kind of the silver lining of what's happening right now. So, eustress levels. That's what we're going to do on. If you are looking for help or your child is looking for help, we have the chat feature running through every live presentation. I do take attendance at the beginning of class. And if a child isn't there, that is a problem, because there are ways that I express myself and things that get expressed that they can't get from just a virtual lesson. And it's really important that your kid has a schedule, that they are working within some boundaries, because we know this is good for mental health, for kids to know what's expected, for them to show up, for their name to be called, for them to be heard and noticed, that somebody cares if they're there or not. So I do take attendance at the beginning of class. Then I'll do a brief lesson, a recap of what's going on. Then we'll respond to questions in the chat. All the lessons are recorded. I take attendance, then I start recording so that there's no record in the recording of that attendance. I keep that separately. Then after I'm done with my spiel like I'm doing right now, I turn off the recording, and then we go into the chat and have a less formal lesson about what I said or what's coming or what's due or what the right way to find things is. Kids are still figuring this out in this virtual world, and that's where we have time to do that. A lot of kids are raising their hand or coming right into the chat and unmuting to ask me questions and talk about it. If your student is struggling with content and the math or the way we're solving these problems is still difficult for them, all of the videos and ed puzzles are available for children to rewatch if they want to. So those materials are available, especially if they're coming into getting ready for an exam. They want to rewatch all the videos to reinforce the concepts, or maybe they didn't get it the first time and now they go watch the video a second time. Maybe they get it then. So those videos will always be available, and they're there for you too if you need to watch them to help your child. So I'm available during all access times after school except Fridays. I teach a class called Science Research Seminar. That's an 8th period class. It's meeting second semester. But those students need to be ready for science fair by February 19th, which means they are meeting with me, not for grades, but because they're really interested in doing internships in actual real science. Those kids are meeting with me on Fridays during access time, so that space is reserved for them. I have permission from the principal to do that. So the other days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm available during class. Even if it's not when I'm teaching, that 80 minutes belongs to your child. So when I'm teaching, I do my thing, and then when the kids are sent off to do their independent work, I sit here at my desk, but I also have my Chromebook on, open to the meeting that I'm muted for, so in case I want to talk to another teacher who comes in. But I will see if a kid comes into that meeting and wants individual help. I jump right in, work with them, they leave, and then I sit here and wait for other kids to show up on my second computer, my Chromebook. So there is a lot of support for your child. There's a lot of interaction available. It's just not in skin, face-to-face, sharing the same airspace. But it is real, it is legit, it's fantastic. And kids can drop in anytime they need to see me. If they wanted to drop into a different period, I teach second and fourth, and they want to rehear the lesson, they're welcome to do that too. So there's a lot of support. But if students aren't grabbing onto those opportunities, it doesn't matter what supports are in place if the child isn't grabbing onto the opportunities. So I'm trying to keep this brief. It looks like I'm doing okay with it. I'm a couple minutes over. I just want to thank you for your support and for sending us such amazing kids to work with. I'll probably make a second video to upload to my Schoology site to talk more about the details if any parents still don't understand how the class works from this. Thank you very much, and I hope you're having a great fall and staying super healthy.